most businesses don't die from just physical damage after a disaster. They die from silence, right? So not damage. They actually die from silence, and they die from having no plan on how to re-enter the marketplace after that disaster occurred. Luckily for you, that's exactly what this video is about. We are going to be going over how to rebuild your sales pipeline after a disaster has struck. So in this video, we're going to go over how to audit your existing pipeline. We're going to go over how to reconnect with your warmest leads. And then we're going to go over how to get the money flowing back into your business again. Because as you know, as a business who's gone through a natural disaster, it seems almost impossible to get people to want to pay you for your products or services. And it's not that they don't want to pay, they just need a good reason to pay. Or it needs to be adjusted in a way to where it fits for them. But we'll get more into that later in this video. So I'm not going to waste your time. Let's go ahead and dive in. Step number 1, start with what you have, right? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to check out who is inside of your CRM, your spreadsheets, your email inbox. Just start going through all of this, dig through all of it, everything you've got, and see who is in there, right? Now, if you're seeing this and you're going, uh-oh, what does CRM mean? Uh-oh is right. You should know what this is. So CRM is a client or customer relationship or relations management system, right? So a CRM, a client, there we go, client relationship management system. Now, this is important because what this allows you to do, it allows you to communicate with your contacts. It allows you to communicate with your customers. It's not just text messages on your phone and emails on your computer and hopefully you can keep up with it all. A CRM brings all of that in together under one roof, right? So you can do email, texting, you can write notes, you can schedule appointments, you can put together tasks for follow-up later on, whatever. It's a great system to have. If you don't know where to start, if you don't have a CRM, I highly recommend you get started with HubSpot, right? HubSpot, I actually don't use HubSpot, but I have used HubSpot in the past. It's a great CRM to use, and their base model for their CRM is free, which is great for businesses after a disaster. Anything free, grab on and hold on tight. So HubSpot's a good free alternative. Our company actually uses something called High Level or Go High Level. It's like a sales and marketing suite all in one, mainly designed for marketing agencies, but actually it worked very well for our company as well. So that is something that you can use. If you have some money, a couple $100 a month, you can do High Level or HubSpot if you're looking for something free, if you don't already have a CRM. If you do have a CRM, great, awesome, keep it. So we want to look through our CRM, our spreadsheets, our inbox, and ultimately what we want to do is we want to define our leads, our prospects under 4 segments here, right? So the first one is going to be active leads. So these are people you were talking to prior to the disaster, right? Let's say you were a cabinet installer, right? And you were talking to a prospect, you sent over a quote, they were about to sign the dotted line, and then boom, flood comes in, right? And it completely wrecks, they got 4 feet of water in their house. I'm going to tell you right now, they still need a cabinet installer. But, now they're kind of like, oh, shoot, I need to redo my whole house. This is tough, right? So these are active leads. So it doesn't matter what the situation, but these are people you're talking to right before the disaster hit. Stalled leads, these are going to be people that were kind of on the fringe, kind of on the edge. Maybe they started ghosting you, maybe not. They're kind of kind of wishy-washy, right? So this is going to be your stalled leads. And then the third one is going to be your past customers. So these are people who have already bought from you. They trust you. They like your product. They know your value. This is a good segment to have, because not only is it going to be good for reselling later on after the disaster, it's also good for collecting marketing materials, right? So you can ask them for testimonials, because testimonials, social proof is going to sell better than anything else, right? Social proof really does work. So go ask your past clients, be like, hey, I'm sorry you're going through this disaster, whatever. Can you tell me a little bit about how we did for you during, pre-whatever, if it makes sense right now, whatever. We'll get into that later. But your past customers are going to be a very good segment inside of your CRM. And then lastly, your dormant leads. So these are going to be any sort of, old leads, subscribers, networking connections that you've made through BNI or any sort of Zoom group or whatever, or Bumble Business, I don't know, right? Wherever you find these people that you have a professional relationship with, this is where you're going to find them on the networking side. So go through old leads, subscribers, networking, contacts, and then now that you have these 4 segments, we need to start reaching out to these people. Now, how you reach out to these people is going to be a bit different depending on the segment, but we're going to give you a couple examples here. So let me get this up here. So here's how to approach these people. This is a good structure. I'm not going to give you like the word for your specific business and your industry because there's tons and tons of them. But ultimately, they're all going to kind of follow this framework, right? So you don't want to pitch to people right after a disaster. Duh. Think about yourself. You just got hit with a disaster. Do you want to get pitched with anything? Probably not. So don't pitch. You want to check in because this is a time where people are at their most vulnerable, right? That you want to check in with them. They are their most emotionally bare and open and, like I said, vulnerable and low, right? Because for some people, they've just lost everything. And I mean everything. And it's tough. It's stressful. You know, example for me, I'm down here in Southwest Florida. Hurricane Milton flooded my home. I was hotel hopping, luckily for a short period of time, but I was afraid of being homeless. I didn't care about anything else or anyone else. I was not thinking about buying anything. All I wanted to know was, am I going to have a roof over my head? And once I did, I was able to calm down a bit. So that's what you kind of want to do here. You want to check in. So it's not a hard sale, but it's like a kind of like a mention, right? So you want to ask about their situation here. You want to know what's going on. And you can do that by doing a couple of these things. It's like, how has business or life been these past few weeks for you? Now, this is where you may or may not play kind of a role of therapist in a way. And not in that you're diagnosing or like telling them what they should do or whatever like that. But you're simply just holding space for them. Because you'll be surprised from the amount of respect you will garner from people simply by listening. It's insane. Because that's one of the key human needs of humans is that we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be understood. So just by reaching out to them, already you're doing them a massive service of just holding space for them. How has business or life been these past few weeks for you, right? After that, you can be like, okay, I'm so sorry about this, and that. Well, just real quick, do you still need help with X? Do you still need help with installation? Do you still need help with your fitness goals? Do you still need help with that super long haircut that you just won't get rid of? Whatever it is, has that shifted for you? Right? And that's a fair question to ask. That's not pushy, that's not aggressive, that's just like, hey, you're going through a lot. Is what I offer something that you're still thinking about right now? Some people may say, no, absolutely not. You go, hey, no worries. And that's somebody you can follow up within like 2 weeks. Some people will be like, well, actually, yeah, I still do need a haircut. So yeah, I kind of am still thinking about it. Okay, great. At least now you know. That's a fair question to ask. Now, if you don't want to ask it that way, you could also ask, what's changed in terms of priorities since the storm hit, or since the fires hit, or since the flood hit, or since the whatever hit, right? That's a fair question to ask, because now you're not going into the conversation asking like, hey, do you want my product? You're going, hey, what do you need? What is important to you right now? And while the conversation may not end in a sale right then and there, it at least instills a level of respect, because now by going through these questions and going through this process, you've instilled in the mind of the consumer saying, hey, these people aren't just trying to sell me something, they actually care, and they're checking in on me. They want to know if I'm okay. That's huge, because like I said, people want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be understood. So depending on the segments that you have, you're going to kind of shift these things a little bit. With past customers, you can be a little more familiar. With active leads, you can be a little more familiar because you're already talking and saying like, hey, we were talking about this before. Do you want to continue talking about it now? Like we have this second one here. Do you still need help with X, or is that shifted? With any dormant leads, you can say like, hey, just the first one, just checking in. Hey, how has business life been these past few weeks? Because in the beginning, they may have been like, I don't need it. But now that they've seen that you've checked in just to see how they're doing, that's it. They're like, well, you know what? They're not so bad. Because in order to sell something to someone, you have to be known, liked, and trusted. And the fact that you're doing this, they already know you. Maybe they didn't necessarily trust you, but now they like you. And when they like you, the likelihood that they'll trust you more has increased. So that's huge. Lots of work done. Make sure you're taking notes on all this. But that's ultimately how to approach. Now, step 3, we're going to look at getting money in the door, right? And the best way to get money in the door after a disaster is actually restructuring everything you have. Now, I'm not saying you create a new product. I'm not saying you change your entire business model. None of that. All I'm saying is that you should try to restructure your offer that you already have, right? So one of the ways you can do that is you can actually rename your offer. you don't have to change anything, right? This could be the same, like here's an example, a quick start package, right? Maybe you're selling, we'll stick with the cabinets, right? So you still install the same cabinets. It's the same product. It's the same whatever, same process. But now it's a quick start package. So instead of like, hey, we're going to just do cabinet installation, we're going to do our post-hurricane cabinet recovery, or post-hurricane cabinet package, right? So it's not just a cabinet. Now it's a cabinet that is designed after a disaster. You didn't change anything about the product. You just changed the name, which changes the perception in the mind of the consumer, saying like, oh, this is something that's now for me. It's no longer just a product that exists, but it's a product that exists for me in my situation. So that's one thing you can do. The second thing you can do is break down your offer into phases or lower upfront commitments. So let's say you are a fitness coach, right? Or a personal trainer, and you typically would offer packs of 4 sessions, so like 1 session a week, or let's say you do 3 sessions a week and you do a monthly thing, right? And that monthly thing comes out to like, let's say $1,000, right? So it's $1,000 to work with you 3 times a week. Well, now let's change it a bit. Maybe you go down to 1 time a week. So you're kind of breaking it up a bit. So it's the same product, you've just broken it up into smaller packages. So instead of 3 times per week, it's now 1 time per week. So it's going to be less, but ultimately you're still getting some money in the door, right? So it might not be the double dollar signs, but it is $1 sign, which is better, which is greater than $0 signs, right? So you want something. Or you can do lower upfront commitments. So let's say you are a business consultant and your typical startup fee is $1,500. Maybe you drop it down to $300 for the next 2 months so that these businesses can actually afford to get your help to at least get their foot in the door, right? So you can do that because now instead of just having no money coming in, there's some compromise, but now at least you're getting something in. So it's going to be good. Next thing you want to do is you want to highlight some short-term wins. So this is where you could do, kind of going back into the fitness coach example here for a personal trainer, right? Instead of getting someone to commit for 3 months of 3 times per week, right? You help them increase bench press by 10 pounds, which if you're a personal trainer, you understand increasing a bench press by 10 pounds is like a day. Super quick, super easy. Increase your bench press by 10 pounds within 3 days. As like an intro offer for like $50. And it's like, oh shoot, like that was super helpful. I loved it. Let's continue going from there. Because now you've at least given them a win. Because not only did they get into the gym and work out with you, they actually have hit, a higher weight than they usually would have before, now that they've gone through a week of working out with you. So that's huge. You can highlight a short-term win for them. So that's something else you can do. Now, the biggest thing you want to do when structuring your offers is you want to speak to emotional value as much as functional. And this is true at any point in your business's life cycle. You should always be speaking to the emotional part of your solution, what do you have? Because ultimately, people don't, here's the phrase for you. I'm going to write it down so you can take it home. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So this right here is huge. This is true in or out of disaster times. People don't care about how much you know. They only care about people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Because if you're just trying to pitch them, the features or whatever you have, okay, cool. How does that help me? Right? Oh, well, it helps because of this. Well, you should have told them that at the beginning. Because ultimately, when you're selling somebody something, you want to show them the end result of what could be, right? So I'm talking a lot about cabinet installers today, but for the cabinet installer, right? You could tell them, instead of having, telling them like it's the soft close and it's the duckwood cabinet connection, whatever that's called, ducktail thing, and instead of telling it stainless steel and this kind of wood, okay, cool. Some people might care, some people might not, whatever. But ultimately, what you can sell them on is the fact that, hey, yeah, these cabinets are going to keep your goods, your food, your everything safe. and it's ultimately going to be able to help. Once all that's kept safe, it can now feed your family, and that's huge, right? It seems like, oh, well, that's kind of a stretch, but if you think about it, why do people buy cabinets? They buy cabinets to store their food or store their stuff so they can continue living their life in a comfortable way. Sell that. Sell that part. Sell the emotional part. So really drill in on the emotional value of whatever it is that you're selling instead of, or as much as, the functional part. Because yeah, functional is important. People are going to ask about the function. But if they aren't sold on the emotional value of it, they're ultimately just not going to care in the end. So there's that. Now, another thing to make sure that you understand is the urgency without pressure, right? In sales, you do want to add an element of urgency to whatever it is that you offer to kind of get people to, not be tire kickers and to get their foot in the door. However, you're going through this too after a natural disaster. You don't want to be pressured into anything because life is stressful. Life is tough. Not a whole lot else on your mind other than like, how do I put food on my table? How do I survive? How do I have a roof over my head? All of that, right? So you want to still apply urgency, just don't apply a lot of pressure. So in order to really make sure that you're hitting the right people with this, first you just want to prioritize people ready to move now, right? Because after the questions that we had asked earlier in step 2, like, hey, where are your priorities at now? Where are you at with this? Is this still something that you want to move forward with? Whatever. Right? If the people who are saying like, yeah, it's not really a priority right now, like, hey, no worries, I'll follow back up with you later. All good. Now the people are like, I'm still thinking about it. Boom. Those are people you want to continue talking to because they are most likely to convert, right? Because when it comes to post-disaster, we're not necessarily looking at just numbers. We're also looking at intent very, very, very heavily. So we want to prioritize people who are ready to move now. Next, one of the things you can do if you're like a service-based or a booking, appointment-based, whatever, we've opened 5 recovery slots, again, with the naming here, recovery slots this week. Do you want one? Right? So this opens the door for them. So we're like, hey, we can help you out. We can do whatever you want. It's all good. Do you want to work with us? But you're letting them know 5 recovery slots. Limitation. You can't help everybody right now. And if they want your help, they kind of have to do it now because you're kind of running out of space and you have very few spots left. You wouldn't have to tell them like, hey, we're running out of space. But just telling them the few amount of slots that you have indicates to them, oh, shoot, they're running out of space because there's so few slots open. So that's something you can use to kind of instill that urgency without any pressure. Now, you also want to be respectful, right? So respectful, clear closes. Would that be helpful, or are you still in hold mode? You don't necessarily have to ask this question. I typically just go, does this sound like it'd be helpful to you? Or does this make sense right now? Right? Something innocent. Nothing too crazy, nothing too pressured. Just, would that be helpful, right? Would that be helpful or are you still on hold mode? Be respectful, be clear, be concise, because ultimately they are in the same situation as you. They're struggling, they're freaking out, they don't know what to do. Treat them the way that you'd want to be treated, right? The golden rule. Now, when looking through this whole process of revamping your business and getting money back in the door, it can be stressful. Right? Just going through this process alone should help significantly. But if we were to look at the stats of businesses that survive after a disaster, right? So let's look at this. 10% of businesses, SMBs, small businesses, hit by disasters every year. Of these 10%, 40% will never reopen. Or they'll fail. Will never reopen / they fail. Of the ones that do open again, 25% close in 2 years. And the biggest reason why all of this happens, or I guess not this part, these two, the 40% and the 25%, the biggest reason why this happens is because of lack of money. And that's the point of this video, to help you get money back in the door. But what if sales don't cut it? What if just, the extra 10% increase in sales, while it's great and it's helping a lot, isn't enough to keep your business alive and to keep it secure for the years to come? Well, that's where our company comes in, Economic Recovery Center. You can book a free call with us, a discovery call, to see if we can be of any help to you. Because what we do is we help businesses after natural disasters navigate different government financing programs to help them keep their doors open. So that way that 40% that we saw and that 25%, because that ultimately comes down, you got a 50-50 shot of success. Well, if you found something that would take that 50-50 shot, kick it out the door, and make it more like, maybe 75-25, maybe even 90-10, or even just if it was 60-40, you take a look at that opportunity, wouldn't you? Probably. So, you can do that. Oh, who would have thunk? At www.economicrecoverycenter.com. You can book a free discovery call with one of our team members, and we'll be more than happy to explore your options and see if there's anything we can do to help inject money back into your business so you can stay in business and continue to stay in business for years to come, because this disaster was not your fault. It wasn't. So you shouldn't have to reap the rewards of disaster. You should be able to continue to build your business. So if that's something you're interested, again, www.economicrecoverycenter.com. If you found this video helpful in any sort of way, like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff, whatever. But if you had any questions about the content that we went over here today, anything specific, anything confusing, anything you want more detail, feel free to leave some comments down below. I'm more than happy to make any sort of content or answers that I possibly can to help you answer the questions so that you can keep your business alive. So if that is all, until next time, take care.